IDM product. Okay, so with this and without much delay, let us extend a very warm welcome to our SMEs, Sonia Petrescu and Norman Norberger, to provide their quick introduction and also to take us through this session. So with that, I will now hand it over to Sonia. Sonia, over to you. You can take it over.
Hi, warm welcome also from my side. My name is Sonia Petrescu and I'm part of the SAP Security Product Management team. I have recently joined their team from consulting. I was in SAP Consulting for identity and access management topics, and I'm really happy to be in this session with you and to go through the SAP identity management topic. Together with me as a host for you for today is Norman. Norman?
Yeah, hello and warm welcome also from my side. I'm identity management consultant for something like 11, 12 years now, and I'll guide you through certain parts of that presentation here. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a disclaimer for today. This information is confidential and property to SAP. This presentation or any related document and functionalities are subject to change. But yeah, you've seen the disclaimer. Now let's move to the agenda. So what do we have for today for you? First, we'll speak about identity management. We'll give you a solution overview, explain then the on-premise scenarios and also the hybrid scenarios that you can build with this tool. We'll speak about enhancement, what has been done till now and what do we have in for this year and where is the product going. We will explain the identity management customer connection program, although I guess many of you might already have participated in it, but for the ones who haven't, we will be happy to explain what this is. Then also, last but not least, we will give some more information about where you can find product-related details and where are the community websites so that you can communicate with us and also ask and raise questions and points. Okay. So I guess you all know by now this screen with the integration strategy for the intelligent enterprise business processes. So they are business processes across all functions. So lead to cash, recruit to retire, which is hire to retire plus the part with the recruiting before, source to operate and design to operate. For our discussion today, the recruit to retire part and hire to retire, those are the relevant points, as they affect the most identity management processes. Now, that was the first level. The second level is the applications. So all the applications and different lines of businesses are beyond. They want to establish the BTP as one technology for these processes and these applications. Now, in between, we have the suite qualities. They are central services that ensure that all the products work together in the same way. This is especially important for security topics. So the suite qualities are seamless user experience, one workflow inbox, end-to-end business, so end-to-end process blueprints, aligned domain models, consistent security and identity management, and we will focus on this in this session. Then coordinated lifecycle management and embedded and cross-product analytics. So what are the key capabilities for consistent identity and access management and security? So first, we have to ensure that the right users have the right authorizations in the relevant systems for their work. This has to happen across all the systems and applications that are relevant for them in a holistic way and to enable efficient, secure, and compliant execution of business process. We have to also ensure that there are powerful and customizable feature sets so that every company can adopt these processes according to their needs and according to what they have to acquire. So what are the main business drivers for identity management? First, operational costs. So we know by now that there are multiple sources of identity data. We have the internal sources and also the external sources for partners, customers, and further source systems. There are also the higher costs that come with manual user provisioning tasks and labor-intensive paper-based approval systems, although as time goes, we don't see these paper-based approval systems anymore, but nonetheless, there are still customers who function like this. There are also the manual password reset processes. I guess we all know what happens if we can't find the password. We call the IT person, and then this takes a while, and it takes also money. So this is something that has to be avoided in companies. Also, an important driver is the changing business processes. So transactions involve multiple enterprises. A company has to communicate with the partners so that they can together have a lean end-to-end business process that functions for them and for their partners and for their customers. These are company-specific requirements for user provisioning solutions. So as companies work together, they also have to find a way that the users are provisioned from partner side in the company systems in case they have to do specific transactions. So from here, there are new requirements that are generated for identity management flows. Also, very important compliance challenges. Each region has their own specific compliance requirements. That's why we have to avoid that there are no records of who has access to each IT system, or that if someone leaves the companies, there is no automatic deprovisioning mechanisms for those employees. Also very important is to have an audit trail available. When the auditor comes, this data has to be available and presented. Also, prevention of unauthorized access in multi-enterprise environments. Yeah, quite clear. Yeah, we have to protect the environment of the customers and help them protect themselves. So, if we think about identity lifecycle and how companies are dealing with these topics, then what are the main steps? So it all starts with hiring. In the hire to retire scenario, in the recruit to retire, this starts one step before from possible employees who are in the recruiting phase. But in a hire to retire, we start with the hiring process. So how long does it take for new employee to get all his systems to get all the authorizations in all the systems that he needs to work? This has to be done as soon as possible so that the new employees can start doing their work. Also, if all goes well, there are new positions, so they have to have the new authorizations for the new job and not to have the authorizations from the previous job in case there is a collision there. So this has to also happen ideally automatically. Then substitution, in case someone else goes to happy scenario in vacation, for a long vacation, for a sabbatical, the respective employee has to take over those tasks. So in this case, he has to have for a limited amount of time the right authorization. Then it's also possible to have a promotion, which again comes with different authorizations, and at the end of employment, we have to ensure, and the companies have to ensure, that when an employee is not part of the company, they also lose their authorizations. So this is the identity lifecycle in a nutshell. Now let's think about how can this identity lifecycle be ensured. So now my colleague Norman will explain to you what are the main on-premise scenarios that we can realize, and also what are the hybrid scenarios where identity management is a really strong central point in this type of scenarios. So Norman, over to you.
Thank you. Okay, we can go straight to the next slide, I think. And yeah, we talk about the on-premise scenarios that SAP Identity Management is involved in. So first of all, it was designed for the management of the on-premise system, where we, well, in the end, had a lot of capabilities growing over the time of the product to, well, yeah, be able to maintain the user lifecycle within SAP Identity Management completely. So that means, for example, that we can have rule-driven assignments based, for example, on certain attributes on the user, like the user's location or the user's position. We have a lot of functionality like extensive audit trail and reporting capabilities. We get to that topic later in detail, what we have there. We have the audit information within the system of identity management. And when we look at the combination of SAP identity management and SAP access control, we basically come to the topic of what we call compliant identity management. And compliant identity management means that we cover not only the user lifecycle from SAP identity management perspective, but also cover the management of the authorizations itself, of the authorization assignment, and of the risks within SAP access control, and combine those two capabilities so that we have an overall integrated scenario where we can maintain authorizations and the risks in authorizations. At the same time, we can also maintain the users and maintain access requests within and the risks within the access requests. Since there's an overlapping between SAP access control and SAP identity management, on the next slide, I will, okay, changing already, that's good. I will basically do a basic comparison between the two products. So what is within which product and where is the difference? So in access control, we have this first tile here, the access risk analysis, which is not available in identity management. We have user access management, which we also have in identity management, but there's a difference. We get to that later. We have a business role governance. We have business role governance in IDM as well, but there's also difference. And we have the emergency access user, while in identity management, we have other additional features. What we see in the beginning for SAP identity management, we have user lifecycle management. So the management of the users and the abilities to automate certain workflows, like automatically creating user and system, automatically assigning authorizations based on all the information that are available within identity management. This is something where identity management has a main focus on, while the access control part rather has the focus on the maintenance of the authorizations and the business roles. So in both systems, we have user access management, for example, but the difference is in access control, it's much more based on the information available there, which is like the risks and the content of the authorizations, like transactions. While identity management, user access management is out of the box, just assigning something to a user, and you can set up your own workflows on top of that. And when it comes to business roles, the difference is even bigger, because business role management in IDM doesn't have any additional capabilities like workflow, versioning, or any auditing of changes in something. And this is already available out of the box in SAP access control. So basically, putting it together, SAP identity management is focusing on managing users. Access control is focused on managing authorizations, and managing the assignments between users and authorizations is basically available in both systems. But we have certain enhanced features in the SAP access control area. Okay, next slide, please. What we see on that next slide is the integration between SAP identity management and SAP access control, which is again what we call the cloud compliant identity management. But in the, let's say, in the old fashion, like as it was the last 10 years, let's say. So the identity management is managing the users on the connected target systems, and access control is connected to SAP identity management. Access control also has a connection to the target systems to read the authorizations and to do like ad hoc risk analysis. But for this scenario, this is not important, so that's why it's not painted in here. So if you go through the scenario, the user can request an assignment, or somebody else can request an assignment for the user. We can have a manager approval here. It doesn't need to be here, but that could be the case, that it's here. And then identity management is sending the access request to SAP access control. And in access control, we can do risk analysis, risk mitigation, even like an additional approval. And then access control is sending the status back to identity management. And here we can have a notification or not, we don't need to, and we provision, or identity management provisions the assignment to the target system. That works well for single privileges, but has two disadvantages. First of all, you have different user interfaces. While the user is requesting here and the manager is approving here, the other topics are basically happening in access control. You have two systems containing the audit information. So some of the audit information is here for everything that happened here. The other audit information is here, which happened here. And the third disadvantage is if you assign business roles, and business roles are basically containers of multiple authorizations in SAP identity management, and you don't have the business roles synchronized, basically identity management will send the content of the business roles to access control. And if you now just approve a part of the content and send it back, then you have a kind of interim state called partially okay on the assignment, because the user basically has the business roles, but he only has a certain set of authorizations for the business roles. And that makes it very complicated to work with that status if you want to do some reporting or yeah, it's either way, it's hard to operate with such a status. So on the next slide, we come to the new access control integration as it is since, I think it was identity management SP6 and access control 12 SP5. So what we have now, we have an integration for the business roles, first of all, and access control can actively push assignments into identity management. So this is the two big changes. First of all, I can design my business roles and business role management with all the capabilities that I have there. For example, yeah, having a workflow on the modification or creation of a business role and just setting it live when everybody approved it and stuff. So this is all not available out of the box in identity management, or stuff you would need to implement. So we're using business role management to design our business roles, pushing it to SAP identity management. Now it's available here. And now we can also request our assignments in access control and have the full approval workflow all in one system, all the audit information, everything in one system. And only after it's approved completely, SAP access control will send it to SAP identity management, and then it will get provisioned. Yeah, I think we can just go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, so the comparison of the solutions, the new functionality where you can provision from access control, as I said already, it's all one workflow solution. You have the same UIs everywhere, same inbox, same audit. The compliance risk analysis embedded. You can use IBAP authorizations for the creation of user access requests. You can search for transactions, for example, which is out of the box not possible in identity management. And you have the substandard workflow functionality. And one of the most important topics, also standard Fiori UIs, which you won't have in SAP identity management as of now. What is if we still would go provisioning initiated by SAP identity management? We are much more flexible in the way we create our workflows. We have the possibility to use Fiori UIs due to our REST API, yeah, for example, from partners or own developed. High integration to higher to tier scenarios. That's like what I mentioned before, when you automatically want to assign certain authorization based on some user information. And this also comes to this last point, using dynamic groups. One key thing to mention here on top of what is on the slide, you can kind of combine it. So you can say access requests can be created in access control for the users, but still identity management can still automatically assign authorizations with, for example, dynamic groups. Yeah. So when you have an authorization concept where a user has certain set of authorization automatically based on his position, on his job, on his personal area, you can still do this automatic assignment. And on the other hand, users can still request additional access on the access control side. So that's what we're currently basically trying to push for most of our current ongoing customer projects. Okay, I think that was, no, I have more slides, right? Yeah, the next topic is also mine. Okay, so the next topic is the hybrid scenarios where we combine identity management to also provision our cloud solutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So what we see here on the bottom, our SAP identity management with our connected on-premise example solutions. And where we want to get is to also provision into the cloud, for our cloud solutions that we have SAP and non-SAP. And the tool we're using for that is the identity provisioning service. The identity provisioning service is a part of the cloud identity services. So this slide is not 100% correct anymore, but technically it is still this part that is used for this provisioning into the cloud. And the way it works is basically the identity provisioning service is offering a proxy mode. So SAP Identity Management is calling a SCIM API into the identity provisioning service, and the identity provisioning service has a connector for the selected target system, which should in best case also be a SCIM, but doesn't need to be a SCIM connector. Yeah, so this could also be something else. And inside the identity provisioning service, you can do mapping of attributes and do certain set of transformations, whereby the connector on the SAP identity management in the ideal case would always be the same. Yeah, so you have a SCIM connector here, like you have an ABAP or a Java connector, you have a SCIM connector here, which would not really worry about what is the actual system behind it, because the transformation would happen in identity provisioning service. Currently in our ongoing projects, we don't always get to that point that we always can just use the same SCIM connector for everything. Yeah, so just looking at IAS, where the user identifiers the UUID, the user UUID, and other systems where they identify as something else, we already might come up with two different connectors here. But in general, that is the idea, that you have one SCIM connector here, and that here the magic happens where this one SCIM connector is basically mapped to the according target system. Yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, what we can see here is a little more components. On the bottom, we see what we saw before as compliant identity management, yeah, where we have access control in combination with identity management, again, what we explained some slides before. And on the top part, we have the SAP Cloud Identity Access Governance, which is basically kind of a counterpart to SAP Access Control, but with functionality of identity management as well. So Cloud Identity Access Governance is basically aiming to cover both access control and identity management, while it's doing all this access governance services, but also using the identity provisioning service, which we've seen on the slide before. So the cloud identity services, basically, to provision to target systems as well. So in this, in this scenario, you could also use a bridge between access control and SAP Cloud Identity Access Governance. This bridge is existing and is available. I don't know, Sonia, whether you want to say something about how, whether it's really used much at customer sides, but from my perspective, that would could I still request access and identity access governance and then would go through access control to identity management? Is that possible?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you repeat?
If I request access in SAP IAG,
yep,
would it go through access control and then SAP identity management? Would that be possible?
That would be possible. However, this has to be configured on access control side. So this is not something that you would configure on EAG side, but this would be a configuration between access control and identity management. Because in this scenario, for the access for SAP Cloud Identity Access Governance, identity management will not be visible.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So you can't control with EAG what happens directly in identity management. That depends on how it's connected to access control and identity management. And yeah, coming back to the point that you raised, there are customers using it actively, the bridge configuration, because this is one way for access control to also offer services for cloud applications. Hence, this is also a popular choice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. All right, so in this scenario, you could use IAG basically as a central point to request access for the cloud solutions or for the on-premise solution through the bridge. Okay, then next slide, please. Okay, what we can see here is basically very similar to the slide before, just a little bit taking it into separate parts. What we're trying to tell here is that what the customer is using in the end really much depends on a lot of things. It depends on, does the customer already have an identity management, for example, right? So would it make sense for a customer to start with Cloud Identity Access Governance if he already has identity management with all his workflows implemented? So in this case, you would probably just go the route through identity provisioning service. Yeah. On the other hand, if the customer doesn't have identity management yet, or any other solution that he wants to replace, then it might make sense to start with Cloud Identity Access Governance as a central point for the user administration. So it always depends on what the customer already has. Is the customer only in the cloud, or is it a hybrid scenario? Is there any systems that could probably not be supported by a cloud solution only? Yeah. So if you need identity management because you have really special on-premise systems that you need to provision. So we always need to decide with the customer which scenario we're using in the end, to put it in a nutshell. And I think.
Thank you very much. So that was also from a practical perspective. How can we use identity management now also in collaboration with the rest of the tools? Thank you, Norman, for the nice presentation on this. And now coming back to the identity management, let's see what are the recent enhancements and where do we plan on going with the product. So in the last years, some efforts from development side in identity management have been concentrated on delivering customer-focused improvements. This means that the new features and the new functionality has been developed based on customer feedback and what was important for the customers. As we know, identity management is already a mature product with a lot of functionality. So now it's really important to see what is it that the customers are requesting. So for this, there was a customer connection program starting in 2020, where feedback was gathered from customer side, but I'll come back to this point a bit later, how this program functions. And as part of this collaboration with our customers and as part of the discussions that we had with the customer, we decided to implement these 5 functionalities: native SAP S/4HANA connector, update of JavaScript engine, improved search functionality, improved handling of historical values, and enhancements for package handling and testing. This is part of the Identity Management 8.0 SP8. If you want to know more details about this information, there are the release notes for the product, the SAP community blog. You find everything in the hyperlink in the presentation after this call. And also there is a nice blog written by our colleague Evelina about the S/4HANA connector. She explains there how to use this connector depending if you have HR integration or not in your target systems and what are the possible configurations. So now this was what was delivered as part of the development package. However, we have the business extension service. Here I will hand over to Norman again, as he was directly involved in this, and he will tell you more about this.
Thank you, Sonia. The SAP Identity Management Business Extension Service basically is a package with methodologies, but a lot of content as well. And first of all, I would like to explain why it exists. So we had a lot of customers coming from central user administration, an ABAP tool where you could manage multiple ABAP clients at the same time centrally. And when we came with our new tool back in 2010 called SAP Identity Management, they asked us, okay, where is our mass administration job? Where is this in this formula? How do I copy user? So we realized there's a lot of functionality that the customers are used to and that we're not inside the product at all. So this is how we started creating a COA replacement package. Later on, there was a program, an SAP-wide program called Rapid Deployment Solutions, which was supposed to help the customers to start and accelerate the projects, basically to be live in a faster way, so accelerating the projects with content and methodology. And we transformed our COA replacement package to an RDS, Rapid Deployment Solution. The RDS, the Rapid Deployment Solution for Identity Management, was the most downloaded RDS of all the available RDSs. So we realized it's pretty useful because we came up with all this content that is available here. But before I get into the content, more to the history, unfortunately, the RDS program was retired, and now we had to, again, make something else out of the content because our partners and customers still wanted to have it. So we made it a service called Business Extension Service. So this is basically the same as what some of you might know as the RDS before. What is part of the RDS? So the COA replacement package or the Business Extension Service is basically that we putting all the missing functionality that was not there in COA, and on top some more functionality that make it easier to utilize our solution in the best way for the customers. So we have mass administration jobs, for example, which is then again kind of replacement of COA, and we have put some best practice stuff inside the business extensions, like we pre-configured approval workflows so that the customer, when they have to set up approval workflows, they have some examples. They have predefined workflows that they can just copy and adapt to their needs. We have increased connector logic, which is, for example, if you want to enable the trace for an ABAP repository, you would need to check out the package and change the configuration. So we put this as a repository constant. One simple example, or we using system-specific attributes, which I will also explain later, which makes it possible that you can unlock a user per system and not only globally. IDM by standard would only support a global lock, like access control would do. We have additional jobs for the connectors, like reconciliation jobs. We have additional forms which were missing, like the form to copy an identity, to enable disable identity per system, to have a password set per system, and we have a UI form for mass user authorization assignments, which was also missing. We have reporting forms. And we have a rule engine for automatic assignments where you basically can upload your rules. You say, if the first name is that, and if the city is that, this is the authorizations the user should get, and everything is done by the system. So how do we deliver the service? There's two options here. First of all, you can contact us and you can get the service from us, from SAP Consulting, basically me in person. And if you get it from us and you want to have support, you got to pay us something. That's why it's a service, right? You pay for the support and for a direct contact. What you can also do, if you don't want to pay for it, you can download the content basically for free. So that means if you find some issue, you can still report it to me, but you cannot claim that I fix it within 2 days. But basically you can get the content also for free if your customer is not willing to engage SAP Consulting in your project. And in here, we have a link also to blog posts where all of this is described in detail, all of the features and the functionalities that come within the business extension service. Just go check the next slide, still mine. Yeah, we have a future outlook. The future outlook is we are still working on a SCIM connector package. I've mentioned it before. There's some certain specialties. For example, if you look at an IAS as a target system, might be different than whatever CONTR, for example. And we have other systems where we see specialties like SAC. We have to put in certain enhancements. So first of all, we have to put all enhancements we have on the other connectors for the SCIM connector as well, so that we have a reconciliation job and stuff. System-specific attributes, again, is always important to have better capabilities in identity management. And now we also have to put new features like the user UUID support into our existing connectors. And we have a lot of other small enhancements where customers come to me and say, can we put this, can we put that? Yeah. So this thing or the service itself is still very alive, and I'm basically, we're not anymore working on it to bring new content and new features into it. Yeah. And so I'm handing over back to Sonja.
Many thanks for explaining this. Now coming back also what comes from the standard development, the customer connection program. So I have mentioned earlier that a lot of the development that is coming now comes as a direct feedback and conversation with our customers. But now let's see, how did this happen? And what was the idea behind? So there was the customer influence platform. There is the customer influence platform, and there was an initiative open for identity management in 2020 and then in 2021, where the customers could submit their requests. The deal was that SAP evaluated the requests with a minimum of 10 supporting customers by vote. And in this, as part of this program, as part of this initiative, SAP delivered a lot of improvements in 2021, and they were also visible by SAP notes throughout the year. Now, let's see what are most of them. I will not go into details because each of this improvement is worth a deep dive session. However, let's go over to see what they were. So in 2021, provide standard reporting, check were used for package scripts, visualize disabled tasks in the process flow diagram. IDM Dev Studio improvement was also there to allow to copy paste multiple rows in a process, schedule a job or a task without checking out the package. Enhancement of add links and relink to package scripts. IDM Dev Studio improvements for attribute handling. Enhanced the REST API task collection was also done. For Eclipse, how to allow copy paste from one process to another. Also, Eclipse enabled D&D to reorder passes in jobs. And the rest of them, switch, you send SMTP message to Java, sending of multiple attachments via one email, secure email for sending user passwords. Again, if you want to see more details about this, look at the SAP release notes, and also have a look at the blogs who are linked here, and you will have this after the call is done. So there was a blog written by our colleague Regine, Customer Connection Extended and Delivered, where we explain what we have delivered and what was done. Also there you have linked to the platform for customer connection in 2021, and you can see again how was voted for it, and also details from the product owner, a recording about the delivered results and how were they implemented. What else came in 2021? Standard reporting. This was a functionality that was long awaited on identity management side. We had some reporting, however, it was more weighted and requested from our customers. That's why in 2021, the standard reporting was enhanced to allow customers to create and modify reports for them to extract the data and download them locally. The big benefit was that this eliminated the need for customers to build SQL queries, definitions, and custom database queries. A lot of customers have tried to use different tools like Lumira, for example, to extract this data, but this assumed that they are aware of the database structure. So that's why with the standard reporting, this was not needed anymore. They are predefined, they are delivered as predefined forms in the UI. And the available reports are as follows: for assigned users for a role, assigned users for a privilege, history attributes for a user, history assignments for a user, attributes, what are the attributes for all the users, what are the assignments for all users, and report double privilege assignments, for example, from a business role and privilege assignment. Now, these reports, they could be run either for one specific user role and privilege or for all the users. So for more information, see the link attached here for executing reports. Also important to know, you can continue to create your own reports or to adjust the ones existing so that these meet your requirements. Okay, then this was 2021, now 2022. So we plan of delivering 5 additional requests as per SAP notes of SP8. You will see these ones also in the IPS roadmap, in the identity management roadmap, in the roadmap explorer. These requests are part of the requests that were submitted in 2021, and they were considered important. However, in 2021 was a lot delivered, hence these 5 new capabilities have been shifted for 2022. So what they are for IDM UI to add download functionality for tables, to improve transport capabilities for packages, support of notification task in approval task of type basic, then standard solution to change the validity of multiple roles for user at the same time, and last but not least, assignment approval options via REST service. So you can see and follow the requests above either on the project landing page for the customer connection and on the identity management communities for more information. So key takeaways. Looking at the time, we also have time for Q&A and open discussion. So key takeaways: SAP Identity Management is the holistic identity lifecycle management solution for on-premise landscape. It can be integrated with SAP compliance solution to support segregation of duties capabilities. As you have further learned from Norman, identity management can be integrated with identity provisioning service for cloud provisioning, for an easier cloud provisioning solution, and also the access control to identity access governance, so that it also covers the segregation of duties capabilities part. It is very important to know that even if it's technically possible from identity management to directly connect to cloud applications from SAP portfolio or third-party solutions, still the recommendation from SAP side is to leverage the cloud identity service, identity provisioning service, because in identity provisioning service, you have all these dedicated connectors already built, so you don't need to build them again on identity management side. However, you can just leverage the scheme connector built for SAP identity management for this solution. Recent enhancements for SAP Identity Management will remain and are at the moment customer driven, and they are based on the customer influence programs. So we are very much focused on what is now important for customers to fine tune the capabilities and to develop new functionalities. So that being said, where can you find further information? The security topic was present this year at SAP TechEd, actually last year, 2021. That's the most recent edition for TechEd, and you can have the event portal hyperlink to access the session replies for identity and access management topics, cloud security, cyber security. We have also expert and customer interviews, so we had a really nice customer discussion at TechEd and demos. Also, there is the blog from Regina SAP Community, Security at SAP TechEd, where you can also have an overview of the sessions and also the links for the presentations relevant for identity access management and general security topics. So this is the community, the SAP community page for SAP Identity Management. We recommend that you visit this community page for information of identity management topics such as discussion forum, product information, documentation, trainings, blogs. So in this way, you can always be informed and up to date what is being done and where are we going with the product. Also, we have packed for you more key links for more information. For the products and services relevant for identity access management topics, you have identity management help portal. For access control, since we've also presented the integration with access control, we've put the hyperlink for you. Identity access governance, single sign-on, cloud identity services, which are basically identity provisioning service, identity authentication service, and identity directory service. For the business extension service, security services, Cloud Trust Center, and also the links to the communities so that you can get directly in touch with our experts and you can also raise your questions, comments, protests. And also for giving feedback and ideas, there's the SAP IDM Customer Connection 2021 link, the Influence platform, and the SAP user group contact. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for participating in this presentation. This was what we wanted to communicate to you, and we hope this brought information to you. And now we're happy to stop the slide sharing and look through the questions in the chat.
Yes. So, maybe I'll go through the questions. Sonia, I think you or Norman can take that up. The first question I see is from Francisco Martinez. So the question is it possible to have a complete identity management and access governance scenario just by having CLOUDIAG or not using SAP Access Control and IDM?
Okay, so at the moment, the dedicated tool for identity management from SAP for identity, the dedicated on-premise tool for identity management is SAP Identity Management. However, as you have noticed in our presentations, there are some overlapping functionalities also with Cloud Identity Access Governance. This being said, one has to look into the exact customer requirement because Identity Access Governance has some IDM functionalities. However, it doesn't have the complete set of identity management possibilities. So there are certain operations that might be relevant for your customer, but not possible to fully implement it with identity access governance. So you really have to check case by case and see what is the customer configuration, where do they want to go, and what do they need from such a tool. Because there are a lot of possibilities in identity management to configure different workflows, whereas in identity access governance, you do not have, at least as of now, these possibilities. So I recommend you look into the product information also for identity access governance and also look at what your customer has for requirements and then see case by case if you have an overlap or where are you standing. Yeah. Yep. Does this answer the question or I think everyone can unmute, right?
Yep. Yeah, if you need, I think you can unmute and then ask the question as well. I'm for now going through the questions. Yeah, questions which are there in the chat. Okay, and the next question I see is it's around what's the future of SAP IDM on-premise? And the second question, I think partly you answered in the first one, where the question is again, would Cloud IAG replace the IDM going forward?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Norman, feel free to step in at any time you want. From my side, the future of SAP IDM. So we have presented in this slide deck what are we currently working on. So for the time being, the development of new features is very much focused on what the customers are requesting. We have already what we are going to do in 2022 based on the customer initiative. So that is kind of where the product is heading. We're looking into what are the customers asking and fine-tuning the existing functionalities, and also if it's necessary, creating something new based on the customer feedback.
Yeah, okay, maybe I give my 5 cents. So I think to the second question, would Cloud IAG replace IDM going further? I think the idea is basically something like that, but this is like really right now still far away due to the difference of the functionalities available. And furthermore, identity management is very much of a toolbox where you can develop anything yourself that you want. Yeah, and I think that's not what a cloud product is supposed to become ever. So it will not be 100% replacement. Because you need to think a little different, you have to think cloud. So more in standard ways, and not that every customer has its own little silos of how you manage users in every department differently and stuff. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Norman. So the next question is when SP05 is going to be released?
Okay, yeah, this is regarding business extensions, I guess.
I think yes.
I am planning to release it end of February. I already wanted to do it end of January, but I have too much workload and was sick in between. So end of February is my current plan.
Okay, thank you, Norman. So the next question is why the IDM UI is not being improved? Why not Fiori screens are built?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing is, we have the ability to use partner user interfaces, so we can also recommend some, like on a personal level. If you want, you can contact us personally, and we can tell you which partner user interface you can use, and they are even some available for free. So I think that's why we decided to not implement our own. Yeah.
Thanks, Norman. So the next question is there a customer connection program for SAP IDM for 2022?
Okay, as of now, we do not have this open. It is still to be decided if this will be opened again, because there are still requests from the previous customer connection program, which are still under consideration. Like we're still thinking what from them to implement. So as of today, there is for this year nothing decided and planned in this regard. However, this might change. So we will announce on all the possible channels as soon as we have a new customer connection program. However, as what we know today, there is nothing concrete planned yet.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. The next question is there any partner enablement workshop available or planned? So I'm not sure whether this question is specific to IDM or for the business extensions.
For IDM specific, yeah.
To business extensions, right?
Yes, especially.
Okay. Norman?
Actually, not now. Maybe can you explain like what exactly you were looking for there in this enablement sessions, if that's okay? Or
yeah, the business extension is like the conversion of rapid deployment solution that was available in previous years. And there is a guidance that exists in RDS solution, and there are some guidance, let's say, put into the GitHub of the business extension service, but they are a little bit, let's say, confusing because it is relating to the old RDS documents, and then you have to go and come back. So there are flashbacks between documents of the old RDS package and the business extension service. So it will be, let's say, better to have from partner perspective how we have to handle any IDM implementation on any customer by utilizing the business extension services.
Okay. Well, I haven't planned any enablement workshops, but I think if you want, can you just drop me a mail? We can chat about it. I mean, I'm always interested in improving this kind of delivery part. And we also got some resources this year that can work on such kind of topics. So just, let me know, and we can talk in person.
Yeah, because I was curious about RDS packages. I was one of the first partners who had RDS certification accreditation in all times for AFARIA, for ASE, and I was hoping to have it for the IDM when we get the first customers, because we did it in our laboratory, but when you go to the customer base, the things are most different. That's why we need some guidance. And as the RDS disappeared, and just let's say we have an email address which is not working from outside, and there's a community and issues that you can create, we need more contact. We need to access you. So let's discuss it offline.
Yeah, that would be like, as of now, that would be me in person then, yeah, because I'm most responsible for this topic now. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Norman. I think those are the questions which we have over chat, and I think we have a couple of more minutes if in case we have any quick questions which could be answered by Sonia or Norman. Okay. So if there are no questions, I think it was really a great session, I should say, from my end. So where we really feel that we are engaging more with customers to make sure what exactly is the customer requirement on the products which we have. That's actually a great initiative, I should say. And going forward, we see more of these customer-specific requirements being taken up, and then we bring that up into our products with the regular updates. So I think that's a great thing which is going on. And thanks so much, Norman and Sonia, for being on this session and then giving your insights as well, and then making the participants also be aware of what exactly we are doing in this space, and how they could also engage with SAP to make sure that we have a great SAP IDM product as well. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you as well. It was
Thank you.
our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.